Hey, Joel, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Tom. Appreciate having the time to talk to you and your audience.
Absolutely. It's great to have you. So, Joel Kessel is the founder of Kessel Communications, a strategic communications agency that helps businesses communicate better with their target customers and audience. Joel specializes in media relations and PR strategy for business owners and thought leaders. Joel, how did you get into specializing in PR and media relations?
Yeah, if I think back, when I graduated high school in Northeast Ohio, I went to the local radio station because I thought, oh, that's pretty interesting. I wonder if I could get a part-time summer job there. And I did. It was great. And I had ended up working at the local radio station for about 5 years. And I think it was the year I was going to be a sophomore in college, one of the news guys, the news reporters, we were just kind of talking before I was going on my shift. And he said, so what are you going to do? And I said, this is a great opportunity. I'm kind of liking this radio thing. And then he said, don't do it. And I'm like, what? So that he went through, you're going to get your degree. You're going to get your first job in Podunk, USA, making about 10 grand. And as soon as you get that job, you're going to be looking for your next one. So he just painted this very bleak picture. And he told me about PR. He said, you ought to check that out because on the PR side, it's more secure. You still get to work with media folks like me and still, get your fix that way. So when I went back to school that fall, checked it out and ended up majoring in journalism with a focus in PR. And back then, there were only a handful of colleges and universities that offered PR as a major. So I was fortunate in that regard. And from there, went up, graduated from Ohio State, then moved to Chicago, and that's how I started my career.
That's awesome. So, there's a lot of news recently about like the media and like fake news and like all this stuff going on, right? And also like with the changes in the internet, there's a lot of changes in like the media landscape. So can you kind of take us through like, what is like the life of like a journalist or reporter out there who might cover someone's book or someone's business? Like what does their life actually look like, and how do we kind of get our message into and to them in a way that they're actually going to be really receptive to it?
Yeah, it's a good question. To think about it, just look at the environment and the day and age that we're in right now. How are we getting our news and information? We're bombarded with messages every single day, and it seems like every single minute. It's no longer 9 to 5. It's just constant. So put yourself in the journalist shoes. And look, I think today anyone can call themselves a medium or a reporter, if you have a laptop and a cell phone. But when I talk about media, it's that professional journalist, they're professionally trained, they're working for that reputable company, but they're dealing with a lot of challenges, just like you talked about, fake news, all these other platforms and people sharing and talking about news and what's trending. So they're now in a 24/7, right now we got to get it out there type environment. So it's really difficult for you and I or anybody to really determine, well, what's real, what's not. And we have to take a step back and look where the source, where is that source? Where did it originate from? I look at Facebook. And I get a lot of my news from Facebook, but where did it originate at? A lot of people say, well, I go to Facebook for my news. Well, that's where you find the news, but where did it start? Was it a story that originated with the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal or CNN that then got shared via Facebook, Twitter, whatever platform you're using? So I always say, look at the source. How reputable are they? How credible are they? If it's something that it just doesn't seem right, probably isn't right.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. And so how can we, ethically become the source for the news? Like, how do we get our books, our message, our story, and all over the internet and Facebook and all these different, newspaper publications and so forth?
Well, there's no one magic bullet. There's a model that I teach and I follow, and it's called PESO, and it's an acronym that stands for paid media, earned media, shared, and owned media. And if you're doing an integrated approach using those 4 areas, then I think that's just going to help elevate the likelihood or the chances of you getting your book out there, your story or your message out there. So if we go through that PESO model, it's, paid. Obviously, you're paying someone to say great things about you or get your message out. So Facebook ads. The earned media. It's what you and I are doing right now. You're gracious enough to have me come on to your show and allow me to talk about my area of expertise on your platform. I'm not paying you a cent for that, but I'm earning that media placement, earning your trust for this opportunity. Shared, it's obviously Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, all those platforms. And then owned media, it's the book. It's our website. It's our blog. It's all the content that we create to help educate and add value to our readers or the people that we're looking to connect and engage with. So it's really a combination, I believe, of all of those things. But when it comes to the earned media piece, what I like to tell people is don't look at these 4 areas as separate buckets. Like, well, we need an ad. What do we want that ad to say? Okay, well, we need to get on some podcast interviews. All right, let's come up with a list and get out there. Well, we need to develop all these tweets and Facebook posts. And it's reinvent the wheel, reinvent the wheel, reinvent the wheel. Where, no, what's your message? What's your story? What is the story that you want to tell? And then how can we use the PESO model to get that same message out in a variety of different ways? Because, in today's day and age, people are consuming their information in so many different ways. Some people might like to read blogs. They might want to listen to a podcast on their mobile phone. They may, it's just a number of different ways. So if we can get it out there in a number of different ways, then we're offering the opportunity for our readers, our listeners, our fans to hear more about us and learn more about what we're about.
Definitely. So how do you craft like that story and that strategy behind it so that when you go and you use that PESO model that you're actually getting the right message out to the right people?
Yeah. Well, before we even get to the PESO model, because PESO really talks about these are the tactics and the marketing activities that we're going to use. Before we even get there, I like to call what I call a game plan. Develop a game plan, and it starts with your goals. What is it we're trying to accomplish here? What does success look like 12 months from now? Is it selling X amount of books? Is it to have X amount of people connected with us on Facebook? Whatever the case may be, let's outline what are those goals. And then from there, we talk about our audience. So who is our ideal reader, our ideal customer? Where do they hang out? How do they get their information? What are their pain points? Right? What frustrates them, and how can we help insert ourselves, or how does our book or our message help provide some solutions to that? And then it comes to our message. And I've got a great tool that I talk about. It's a simple message map, and it's a 1-pager. It's 3 columns. It's problem and solution. It's problems and those challenges and frustrations. And then it's how are we providing some of those solutions to help alleviate some of those problems? And then what are the results? So me, for example, I created a message map for authors. I know that there's been a 375% increase in the number of self-titled books coming out since 2010. There's a lot of noise out there. Also, I Googled the phrase, I wrote a book, now what do? More than 40 million results come back. I asked a couple of questions on Facebook. What one word comes to mind when you think about getting publicity for your book? And it's trepidation, clueless, don't know where to start. It's all this anxiety, or we just don't have the money to do it. So those are some of the challenges that I know authors face. But then when it comes to the solutions, I can come in and say, look, you don't have to hire a full-blown agency to do this for you, because I know you're going to spend a lot of money and expectations may not be met. And I hear that all the time. So what I like to say is share the story of Mark Cuban of the Dallas Mavericks and on Shark Tank. He was interviewed a few years ago. with a industry trade publication, and he said, small businesses should never hire a PR agency. Well, Tom, the PR world went nuts. It's like, what's going on? I didn't disagree with him because he's right. Because when it comes to media relations, it's really about how do you build relationships with the media. So what I like to say in the solutions part is you have to do it on your own, but get some guidance, get a coach, get an advisor or a consultant that's going to lead you down the right path. So that's where I come in, and I have a variety of different coaching programs, advisor programs to help authors sort of take the right steps to make sure they're doing the right things to promote and get the awareness about their book. And as a result, then they have more clarity, more direction, more confidence. They're going to be able to better connect and engage with their readers and their audience. And that's what we're really trying to go for, and ultimately sell more books. Mm-hmm. And then once you have that message, now then it comes to that PESO model and what are those things we're going to do to connect and engage.
Totally. When I first started looking into like PR firms, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, every quote I got was like $5,000+ a month. And I was just like blown away. I was like, there's no way I would make a profit spending that much money to hire a PR firm. It just didn't make any sense to me at all. And so
right.
I totally agree with that. I mean, I think the vast majority of authors and artists and small business owners can't really afford that, right? Unless they just get insanely lucky with PR, that's not going to pay off, right? But at the same time, a lot of the top entrepreneurs I know who are doing really, really well with media, they don't have a PR firm. They've just got oftentimes just an intern, sometimes a paid or non-paid intern, young college student that comes in and they teach them what to do and how to build those relationships, like you said, and do incredibly well in the media. So once you've got kind of your story clarified and your message, right? Who your audience is. Well, actually, let's take a step back from that. How do you actually help your clients find out who is their ideal audience? Because I think our listeners could really benefit from that.
Yeah, what I typically do is, and I teach this in my online course, but I also take clients through this in person. We have a strategy session, and that's one of the questions we ask. What problem are you solving, and for who? And we get all this stuff up on the board, and sometimes it might be 27 different audiences. Well, we can't connect and engage with 27 different audiences, or we can't focus all of our time and energy on 27 different audiences. So once we get that all up there, all right, let's winnow it down. Who's number one? Who's number two? Maybe three. Let's take the top 2 or 3 that really are going to benefit from our book, our product, our service, whatever the case may be. And that's where we're going to focus. Okay, now we need to take another step in understanding that audience. What research and information is already out there, online? What analytics can we pull from our website or from a Facebook ad that's going to help give us a better understanding of that audience? Who are they? What do they do? Where do they get their information? Where do they hang out? Because then that may help determine, it'll help determine what are some of those activities that we should be doing, both online and offline. So, that seems to be evolving all the time. So that's why it's really important. Once you're doing your marketing and your communications and PR efforts, it's not a check off the box, one and done. Always got to be listening, always got to be providing what your readers or your customers want or need, and make those tweaks and modifications so you're always adding value to them. Otherwise, they're going to go somewhere else in a heartbeat.
That's a really great point. I think, a lot of folks, if they even do the market research in the first place, like they kind of like do it one time, and they think, this is my customer. And then they kind of just keep doing the same thing over and over again and stop listening. They stop reading the reviews on their books. They stop, listening to the emails from their audience. They stop talking to people one-on-one and asking questions. And over time, they start to get even more and more disconnected from their audience, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great point. Because, relationships are still, I believe, the backbone of any successful engagement. And I think sometimes people fall back on online and think that's enough. I'm doing my social media. I'm having a conversation through Twitter with people. Yeah, but What about that conference? I go to conferences and actually meet people face to face, connected with them on Twitter, and we have those conversations. And what invariably happens, long-time relationships. I invite them as a guest on my podcast. They do the same for me. Oh, you need to meet this person. I'm part of a mastermind group right now based on a group of people. We met at conferences, and it's a wonderful group throughout the country. And so there's a lot of benefits. We can't lose sight of the importance of building and maintaining relationships, but that it's also done online as well as offline.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So let's talk about the online component, right? Because I think it's important, right? I think obviously you have to have the skills to, have a conversation with someone on the phone and in person and, build long-term relationships. But, a lot of times when folks are just starting out as new entrepreneurs, new authors, they don't really know anyone in the industry, right? And so how would you go about with an outreach campaign to get connected with the top influencers or media people in your industry?
We have to have a servant mentality, I believe. We have to give and not expect anything in return, so to speak. So whether it's media, top influencers, anyone that we feel are going to help us get our message out or our book out there, it's first identifying them, but then where are they hanging out? And online, okay, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, whatever. Let's go and start connecting with them there. Follow them, retweet some of their information, call them out. Hey, great article written by, this person over here. Share their content. So over time, they're going to start to take note. But also, what if they have a program? What if they have an online program? Or if they are running a conference? Go. Invest in them. If you feel so strongly about them as a guru or a leader, well, go to their program, purchase their online program, go to their live event. And that's another way to get in and build that relationship. Now, the thing here is, we're in a time where it's 140 characters, short attention span theater. We want it yesterday. And this stuff takes time. And I think it really, part of it is, what do you have the passion for? If you're passionate about this, you're going to be in this for the long haul, and people are going to know that. So it does take time. If you're just starting out, don't give up after a month. It's going to take time, but it does start, what's that fire and that clarity and that passion that you have where, I'm going to be doing this for more than 10 years, 20 years, whatever. I love what I do. And that's what's going to help really, I think, drive the success, whether you're doing it for a month or 10 years.
Yeah, I love that you talked about, this having that servant's mentality, right? And focusing on adding as much value as possible to that connection, to that relationship, even before you know them, so you can get to know them, right? So they actually want to get to know you. And I know that principle has been crucial to my success in so many ways. I mean, it's helped me build so many amazing relationships with leaders in the publishing industry and other industries that I would never have been able to build those relationships if I hadn't approached them with that kind of mindset. Right, so can you give us some examples of how you actually implement that servant's mindset when you're reaching out to people?
Here's a thought that immediately comes to mind is you can't be intentional. It's just a way of life. It's just a philosophy. It's how you live your life. And so I don't know if there's any specific things. If you go in thinking, well, I'm going to do this to get that in return, you might get really frustrated. But if you go in just, hey, this is who I am. How can I help you? That you never know where that's going to lead. So is there anything, some of the things that I just talked about, pour into them. How can you help them? How can you help them spread their message? When we're talking about media, they are so spread thin, reduced budgets, reduced staffs. They have to get stories filed, now. The easier we can make it for them to write stories and produce stories and do their job, boy, the more they're going to appreciate us and want to come back to us in the future. So having a press kit with all those helpful materials, having data and statistics as it relates to your industry as part of that press kit, because they're going to have to go out and do research. Well, what if you did the research for them and you come up with 20 data points that they can pick and choose from, but also might lead them to other sources? That's really, really helpful. So it's just some of those simple things. And that's the thing. I mean, a lot of this stuff, look, I've been doing this for 24 years, and to me, it's common sense, but it does take a mindset to just, how can we be helpful? How can we help that person do their job easier? How can I save them time? How can I help teach them a new skill to make their life a little bit easier? And it's just a way of life, or a mindset, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you're definitely right. I think you have to get the mindset right first, and then you'll figure out the activity along the way, right? If you have the mindset right, you can't really do the wrong action.
Yeah, Tom, you and I spoke a few months ago, and something you had told me back then about that servant leadership, servant mentality. You ask yourself, well, if I need more clients, or if I need more money, I don't ask myself, how do I get more money? I ask myself, how can I help more people? And when you said that, I'm like, that's exactly what we're talking about, even right now. Who needs my help? And look, there's my mentor and coach, Carrie Oberbrunner, talks about the deeper path payoff. And it's a 6-step process where it starts with clarity. Where are you going? Why are you doing what you're doing? Clarity leads to competence, which leads to more confidence in what you're doing, which leads to more impact and influence among the people you're serving, which then leads to income. And I think what happens a lot of times, people lead with income. I've got to make money. And that's where the frustration starts, because they're not making the money they feel they need. People can see right through that's all you're interested in. And you're frustrated, or you go out of business, or you give up and try something else. But if you go through that process of having that clarity with that servant mentality and approach, money's going to be there. Just follow your heart and that clarity and direction, and you're going to be fine.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it took me a while to get there because I was in a dark place, about 6-7 years ago, and got the help that I needed. And it's pretty cool to see where I'm at now, and that clarity that I have now.
Yeah, definitely. So I have a great example of this. So a couple weeks ago, someone pitched me an interview for this podcast, and I was kind of skeptical because I didn't know who this person was. I had no idea about the background. It just seemed like the typical pitch letter, and so I just wrote back like, do you have any links to other interviews? And so she sent me like this press kit, and it was all like one page. It was like a really nice design PDF. It was like 5 pages long, and I didn't read it. I mean, it was so long, but so much detailed information on there. But just the fact that she put that much effort to create that piece, with everything on her, from her photo to her bio to her website to her top questions to her answers to this question, like everything was in there. So the fact that she just put that much time, effort, and energy to create that document just was like all the proof I needed to know, like, okay, this is someone who's going to be good enough for the show, right? And I think a lot of times folks, we underestimate the power of those small little things. Creating a well-designed press kit, creating a well-designed email pitch, creating a well-designed website. We think that, someday when I'm successful, I'll get a nice website. When I'm successful, I'll get a nice press kit. But I think the truth is, a lot of times, like when you create the nice materials that represent you and your brand the right way, that's when your business will grow, because that's when everyone around you can see that you're a true professional who's really committed to your success.
Absolutely, man. You hit the nail on the head there. And something as simple as a press kit. And, we know, and you just said it was too much for you, but there are other people who are like, yeah, this is great information for me. I was working with an author a few months ago, and he developed his press kit. And when it was time for him to actually start the pitching and the reaching out to media, he got a little bit of cold feet, but I talked him off the ledge, and I said, look, just send an email, and tomorrow send another email. Well, within a week, he sent 5 emails. He got interest from 4 people. And the first email he sent, the person responded and said, great press kit. You've got it all together, concise, it's clear, really appreciate that. Let's schedule a time to talk. So yeah, to your point, it does add, I think, a certain level of professionalism, but it also tells people, hey, I'm serious about this, and I want to help your listeners, your readers, your viewers, your audience, just as much as I know that you're going to help me by allowing me to step onto your platform.
Mm-hmm, totally. And I think a lot of folks, we mistake the sending the email part with the part that's going to make us successful, right? Like, you hear about someone like that sending 5 emails in a week. And so someone might think, oh, well, I'm going to go send a whole bunch of emails and be really successful. But like, if you don't put the preparation in ahead of time to make those emails successful, you're not going to get the results that you want.
Yeah. Well, and for that example I just shared with you, part of his process was that, before he got to that point, developing his media influencer list. And when I talk to people about this, it's not 127 contacts. Start with 5 to 10 outlets of publications who are directly in line with your message, your story, and that you're going to be able to help their readers, listeners, and viewers. And once you come up with that list, now we can start to do some of the things we talked about earlier. Start following them on Twitter. Start sharing some of their content. So when it is time to send out that email, you know enough about them and what they cover. And it's just, that door is just going to open up even wider if you go through some of those steps. And I know that's why this person had that success. Four people interested after 5 emails, because he went through a proven process to make that happen.
Yeah, totally. So there's this great sales trainer who passed on called Chet Holmes. And he has this sales strategy where he'll like go into a company and like a small business, maybe like a business who's selling to other businesses, and he'll systemize their sales strategy and say, look, we need just a list of the top 100 customers. So if these customers bought, it would make the biggest difference in our business. And we're only going to focus 100% of our marketing efforts on these 100 customers. And because they get so focused on such a small group of people, they're able to add so much more value to them, right? They can follow up more often. They can send them more information. They can provide better documents that are tailored to their specific needs and wants. And I think that principle is so important with the internet today, because so many folks, you think, we can just tweet and Facebook and all this stuff like you're talking about, just these generic mass messages. But when you customize your message and your value and your service to a small handful of people who are the leaders and influencers in your industry or the media people in your industry who can help you get the exposure to grow your business, that's how you become successful, right? Like, I know there's a handful of relationships I've had in business over the years that have made the biggest difference by far in terms of profitability and growth of my company. And, if I had tried to just reach everyone, I would have never had the same level of success. And there's no way.
Right. And when we were talking about audience a few minutes ago, you can't talk to 27 different audiences. Who are the top 2 or 3? To your point exactly. And just zero in on them. And that doesn't mean that we're going to forget about everybody else outside of those top 2 or 3. It just means that's where our marketing communications focus is. And there might be spillover from some of those other audience. They might come knocking at your door. Are you going to say no? I don't think so. It's just, to me, that's just, unexpected opportunities that come your way. You already have your system. You already have a way to help people and serve people, and you're going to help them just as much as you would help the top 2 or 3 that your marketing focus is on. But you're so right. Once you get that clarity and zero in, it's niching, essentially. I had to take a step back about 1.5 years ago and really go through practice what I preach, and always have a passion for helping nonprofits. I've worked with nonprofits my entire career, but also authors. And people ask me, well, why authors? And I love stories. I love a good story. I'm still get all sappy sometimes when I watch a commercial. I'm like, really? Is this really happening? I just love good stories. But I also know that there are great stories out there of authors that some of those stories just never get heard. And it's because they don't know the right steps or the process or the right approaches to take to get their story out there in a meaningful way. So once I got that clarity to really help authors and help them get their stories out in a meaningful way and help continue to help nonprofits, it's like all of a sudden I got super focused and work became so much more fun. I'm having a blast because of that focus. Don't be afraid to niche, I guess is the point, right?
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I think focus is so underrated because, when you start out and you're a startup, when you're a startup business owner, when you're a brand new author, like you don't really know 100% who your audience is. You're kind of just trying to figure stuff out, right? But the faster you can get that clarity on who your audience is and who the important people you need to connect with are, the faster you're going to get results because you're going to learn so much better and you're going to build those deeper relationships faster.
Absolutely. And for everyone, I think it's so important to really, Simon Sinek, start with why. Right? Why? Why are you writing this book? Why do you want to do what you do? What do you desire? Asking some of those, they're simple but very deep questions on what is it that I want to do? What drives me? What gets me up in the morning? And it might take some time to figure out, but again, having that level of clarity and focus is what's going to just catapult you moving forward. I'm experiencing it. I know you have, and I see it in people all the time that have that level of clarity and focus. They're off the charts. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Well, I'm so glad you came here today, Joel, and got to share with us about the servant's mentality and, really getting focus and clarity on, what your message is, what your purpose is, and who are the people to connect with that can help you get your message out to more people. So thank you so much for sharing. Where can folks find out more about you and the work that you're doing?
Yeah, well, thank you, Tom. I really appreciate the opportunity. And your audience can go to my blog site at joelkessel.com. And right there on the homepage, I have a free resource that they can download offering free advice and tips on how to get publicity for your book. And also, they'll get notified of a free webinar I'm having in late March. Not sure when you're going to have this air, but it's a free webinar on getting publicity for your book. That's going to be recorded as well and made available on my site after that also. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joel. I really appreciate it.